Hello, and welcome to Faith Beyond the Labels with Liz, where stories shine, faith ignites, and every soul finds its flame. I'm your host, Liz, a mom, an educator, and a neurodiversity advocate, walking this journey with you. Whether you're navigating neurodiversity or parenting with a purpose, or even rediscovering who you are beyond the labels, you've come to the right place. Let's go deeper than diagnosis. Let's uncover identity. Let's live beyond the labels. And today we continue to explore faith, education, and community and how they can come together to nurture and uplift neurodiverse individuals and their families. In this episode, we're talking about something that many families feel, but very few will feel safe enough to say out loud. We're talking about stigma. Stigma in schools, stigma in communities, and sometimes stigma in churches. Now, when people hear the word stigma, they often imagine something loud, obvious rejection, discrimination, harsh words. But the truth is, sometimes stigma is much quieter. Sometimes it looks like hesitation. Sometimes it looks like discomfort. Sometimes it looks like misunderstanding dressed up as concern. And sometimes it shows up as silence. Families quietly sitting at the back of a church because their child might be making noise. Parents wondering if their child will be welcomed in the children's church. Children learning very early that parts of themselves are not easily accepted. For many neurodivergent children, especially those with autism or ADHD, the pressure to appear normal, it can become overwhelming. They learn to hide parts of themselves. They learn to watch others carefully. And they learn to mask. And masking can be so exhausting. As a mother, I've watched how misunderstanding can affect a child's confidence and mental health. My own journey as a parent involved years of trying to understand behaviors that others would have dismissed. There were moments when concerns would have been brushed aside and, when stigma would quietly shape how others respond. But I also learned something important. When understanding replaces judgment, when faith replaces fear, when community chooses compassion over comfort, lives can change. And scripture reminds us in Psalms 139, verse 14, I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Every child, every mind, every difference, wonderfully made. So today we're having an honest conversation about stigma, faith, and belonging. Because churches should be places where families feel seen, known, and embraced. And neurodiverse families, individuals who are different in terms of whether it's visibly different or in terms of their learning styles or how they process or interpret the world, we should all have the same opportunities to thrive, to belong. So to help us to unpack this important topic, I'm joined by someone whose life and work beautifully bridge faith and education. My guest today is Reverend Damion Ferron. He's a devoted Christian, husband to his wonderful wife, Natoya, and their two beautiful girls. And he is also an educator by profession And so, Mr. Ferron, welcome to Faith Beyond the Labels with Liz. I'm so happy to have you here in studio with us. Can you take a moment to introduce yourself? Say a little more about yourself.
Thank you very much, Liz, to have me on your program.
Yes.
It is a privilege to be here, and it is. I love the topic that we are going to talk about today. Being an educator and working with kids, it is a growing challenge in our society and in our homes and in our environment, and we have to be prepared for what is coming.
Yes.
So it's good to be here. As you mentioned before, I have been in education for a number of years, more than 10 years. And I've worked in different areas as a counselor, as a inclusion specialist, as you terms, we call it a child development advisor when I was in Canada.
Okay.
I also work as a class teacher. So I've been doing that part of my life for over more than 10 years. So my life has been in education and working with children for a number of years.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you here in studio. Listeners, stay tuned to this insightful discussion on breaking the stigma, faith, inclusion, and belonging in church and community. You're tuned into Faith Beyond the Labels with Liz. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Need help to produce your podcast? Flashpoint Media makes it very easy. We can relieve you of the headache by recording your podcast for you. So, take the first step to getting your content to your desired audience. Contact us here at Flashpoint and your podcast will be live in no time. Our website is www.flashpointmedia.ky or call us at 345-321-6969. That's 345-321-6969.
Welcome back. This is Faith Beyond the Labels with Liz, where we trade fear for faith and labels for legacy. And I'm joined here by Reverend Damion Ferron. And so he is an inclusion specialist here on Island, and he's a dedicated Christian leader. So, Mr. Ferron, before we dive deeper into our discussion on breaking the stigma, faith, inclusion, and belonging in the church and the community, I would like you to just share a little bit about your journey. What sparked your interest in both education and ministry?
Let me start from my family background.
Yes.
Teachers have been a part of my family. I had an uncle, more than one uncle really, an aunt. They either have gone, one of them was a principal, and so they have taught in different spaces. So it has been a part of my family that education was one of the route that we would travel in. So as I get older, I began to have a passion for it also.
Okay.
Or I would have maybe done accounting, but I think that teaching was a better calling. So I started off my journey by going to Micro Teachers College. And then from Micro Teachers College, had my first job in Jamaica at Portmore. Went on the job for the first time, did an interview, and the principal said, okay, you're hired. So I started my journey there.
Okay.
As I continued, I went back to Jamaica Theological Seminary and did a bachelor's in counseling, emphasis in counseling. And then I continued and moved, and I did my master's in theology in Canada. I've always worked in the different jurisdictions, so I've worked here in the Cayman Islands and in Jamaica and also in Canada. in different schools as I continued my journey. And while I was here, though, one of the things that, as you talk about neurodiverse kids, I
Yeah.
had the privilege of working with the Lighthouse schools at the time.
Ah.
And then I continued when I was in Canada. Some of the schools that I work, it is inclusion schools. So you have their school system involve both neurodiverse diverse kids in their system. So
Okay.
yes. So the journey has been good, has its challenges,
Yes.
but I have enjoyed myself in teaching for the number of years that I've been doing it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for that. So from both your, because I see that you have the education side and the theology side hand in hand.
Yes.
Right. So from both your faith perspective and your professional background in education, how would you define stigma when it comes to neurodiversity in your experience? Or how do you
I
see
would
this
say,
playing
in
out?
terms of stigma, knowing from before, if I maybe didn't know better now, it's normally seen as a negative connotation,
Yes.
and it is come across in a negative way. But as you said, you have to dive into it a little deeper and look at what is happening and what is happening to the individual or the situation. Because sometimes when you investigate any situation, there's always more underlying information that you miss.
Yes.
And you need to get that information to make a good decision or choice
Yes.
on the matter. And so another thing too is when we don't have enough information we make that bad judgment and believe that, as I said, stigma is always negative.
Yes.
Instead of learning from it and how we can find a solution for the situation or to improve the situation.
Yes.
In whatever challenges that we face.
That's true. So, in your experience, have you seen this in the church setting?
Yes, I think in my faith, I think sometimes as a church, sometimes we kind of need to get up to speed in terms of what is happening in terms of neurodiverse kids and in the society that we are living. Sometimes we allow faith sometimes to not get the necessary help that is
Yes.
needed for a person who is facing this type of challenge. Sometimes we allow the faith, and history will show you that some of the things that would have been better dealt with in proper checked and medication and assessment would have worked out better for the individual than just taking a faith base. Because sometimes we pray is not necessarily mean that we need to pray for it. We needed to get a little bit more help, because my belief is that science and faith, they go hand in hand.
Yes.
They
absolutely.
work together, and sometimes we kind of try to dismiss them, but they're not separate.
Yes.
They work together, but it's never should be at the point where you allow science to override your faith, because the faith is the major one. But when they work together, you can still accomplish what God has planned for us and for the human race and for individuals who face different challenges.
Yes, absolutely. So, so you're saying that it could be rooted in ignorance then? Not
Yes,
knowing.
I just said yes. Ignorance is would be one. Fear.
Yes.
As with my experience in terms of going to Canada and maybe going to different environment, you realize that sometimes that yes, it's ignorance and fear is sometimes two of the factors that hinder parents or even individuals to truly understand the dynamics that relate to neurodiverse kids or individuals.
Yes.
Because it's easy to overlook the behavior or the attitude
Yes.
when you don't know.
That's true.
My experience sometimes, especially a child who have autism or depends are on the spectrum,
Yes.
you might call to them or make a suggestion and they didn't respond right away, and sometimes you immediately say, oh, that individual was rude,
Yes.
or the behavior was bad. But because of what is happening in their physical body and their brain, it is difficult for them to respond quickly. And if you don't have a knowledge of it, or you're not aware, or you end up drawing conclusion before getting all the facts, and sometimes making a bad choice, and
That's
sometimes
true.
create a barrier between you and the individual instead of creating a relationship that would help be a better thing for the individual.
That's so true. And you find that, as you mentioned, sometimes people might see the child behave in a particular way and say, oh, that child is rude.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it happens. It happens. When you don't know, because I have the experience of working with neurodiverse kids, I sometimes know, hey, instead you have to use patience. You have to sometimes listen a little bit more. You have to observe a little bit more. And sometimes you just simply need to ask
Yes.
before jumping in a conclusion. Sometimes we quick to jump to conclusion without asking. And so if we spend that time and sometimes investigate a little bit more, then you'll get a better understanding and be able to handle it better. And also understand that while we see them in that light, they are having their challenges. And they are facing that challenge and they need somebody to be there for them. And sometimes we fail to remember too, even those as individuals, and we say quote unquote, we say able body are in a more typical, neurotypical mindset.
Yes.
Who is all right. We have our challenges. We have our challenges. There's no individual who don't have what I would call an handicap in terms of how, I don't want us to misinterpret the word, and in terms of an ability that we
Yes.
don't have. So when I use a term, it means that you lack an ability that you need to maybe practice or you need help with. And all of us have that, no matter who you are, whether you're a neurodiverse kid or you're a neurotypical individual who is okay, we all have that. And that's why it makes life better, because you have that, then there's another individual who has the ability. And when we come together and work together, we're able to achieve the goals in life.
Yes, that's so true. I agree with you. And you touch on some salient points, because you talk about faith. Sometimes, if you look at that just using a faith-based approach only, that can be problematic, because you said you can't just pray away everything. Because even looking at Jesus, how Jesus, his model, he did different things.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Because faith without works is
It's
dead.
dead.
So you still put the work behind it to, how would you explain it?
It's theological part. Yes, I've always, your faith is not just that you have your mind set in that you want to go to heaven.
Yes.
Yes, that's one of the ultimate goals. But what do you do while you're here? And you're here for a purpose. Every individual that is born, every individual is created for a purpose. No matter what. God don't make a mistake like that. So while we try to understand the different dynamics, we must understand there is for a purpose. And we face different challenge in terms of our faith base, knowing that, yes, while we hold our faith, how do I use my ability down here to help the situation? Because remember, we are created in the image of God and also the mind of God. So all the ability that we have, all the creativity and the idea is from God. So when we develop new methods and different medication or different ways of helping an individual, it is from God. But we must remember that God is the ultimate of all things. He is in the control of all things. And so why we must put him first. And that's what he requires from us. But while we put him first, he also gives us wisdom.
Yes.
And know when you need to pray about it, but also when you need to get some from the scientific side of it. When the person is going through depression, is it okay when to get some medical treatment or go for counseling? Because we can't do it all by ourselves. And he has given individual the ability to help us while we are down here.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And I know theology can somewhat be harmful when people interpret disability only through lenses of deficiency, or there's a thing that they call demonization.
Yes.
Because at one point I was led to believe that maybe it's a spiritual attack. Why,
the individual is like that.
Right.
And we don't want to dismiss that we have that element, but as you said,
yes,
you have to investigate to know the difference. when it's more from a genetic part of the individual or the brain development or the whole development of a child. You have to do a little bit more investigation. Sometimes we don't do that. You have to be open, and
I like that
we live in a what we call a multicultural society now. And so we have to understand things have changed, and we have kids who are going to have that challenge in terms of the neurodiversity disabilities, and those were. But if we begin to realize that it is not an issue that we need to sweep under the carpet, but an issue that we need to work together. I am one of those. I try to advocate, and I even in my own church is that I begin to say to them, how are we preparing for people like these? So while churches are being built now, you can't take the approach that I'm building it the old-fashioned way, son. Are you creating an environment, a space that if I have a child who has a neurodiverse problem, is there a space that they can have, they're worshiping with us still, but they can have this space for themselves? Or if they're in the service, how do I incorporate these individuals in the whole service program and also be a part, knowing that they're valuable, they're important, and that they need to be able to shine like anybody else?
Yes, I like that. I really like that. And so instead of seeing these individuals as a problem to fix, instead of someone with dignity, belonging, and shared humanity. Yes, and even Cayman's Disabilities Act and even the National Council for Persons with Disability explicitly frames disability in terms of rights, dignity, and equal participation, which is a strong corrective to stigma-based thinking. And then with neurodiversity, there's that gray area where there's a view that it's not necessarily a disability, but a different way of thinking. So it all depends on, for instance, autism is seen as being on a spectrum.
Yes,
right?
A different spectrum. Yes, I agree with you. And we have to give thanks to laws that are trying to insist that, hey, we need to make better preparation in terms of persons who face these challenges, because to be honest, before, and history will show you that they weren't prepared for. You still have countries who still not have certain things in place, whether the schools or the community, the workplace, they are not there, but we are getting there, and that's a good thing. I'm happy for that we are getting there, that we are beginning to prepare these environments, that these individuals will work in, develop, and not seen as separate, but as one. But we just need to put in the things that are necessary for them to be able to shine and to flourish in their space and their use and their ability. Because the thing is, when they each have a special or unique ability. Because what I realize is, like, I might be always associated with your senses, your 5 senses. If unfortunately you miss one or one is taken away, you realize the other 4 become heightened and are more greater than before when you had the 5. Same thing as we look at neurodiverse individuals or kids, their ability shift too. So maybe they might have a challenge here, but they have some other amazing skills that are developed, amazing abilities that are improved, that if we tap into those things, they will be the world agents of change.
That's right.
And even finding new, different discovery that will help us as individuals. But sometimes, as he said, we can overlook it if you're not one of those persons who have that curious mind that is not willing to investigate a little bit more, is not willing to learn a little bit more, then you will, overlook them and miss their abilities or the gifting that they have.
So we have talked a bit about the stigma in the church and even in, the community. And we see that stigma really in our context is rooted in ignorance, as you say, and fear. Right. Because even as you had mentioned before, perceptions that people may have with some of these individuals because they may behave differently. I'm from Jamaica, and many Caribbean countries will see a child behave in a particular way, and the first thing they would say, oh, that child needs 2 good slaps or 2 good licks
Yes.
to get them to behave.
Yes, I agree. I am, as I said, for me, I've always said each individual, you have to know what applies in terms. I'm not an advocate of wrongful punishment or wrongful treatment of any individual. You always know your child,
Yes.
and you need to know what is best. As I said, I have 2 girls, and Mimi is. You talk to one and she's good, you might have to take the phone away from the other one for them to move a little faster. So you look at them and you begin to figure out what they are, or who they are, and their personality. Because no 2 child is the same.
That's right.
As you said, it's ignorance and fear, but again, I would say lack of knowledge in terms of it, that cause us not to begin to incorporate them more, and even to begin to investigate more in terms of persons who have these challenges. I mean, if I didn't study a little bit more about it and work with kids with these challenges, then I would maybe still be in the dark a bit.
Yes,
but when you're
indeed.
open to what is happening, then that helps.
Yes.
And as I said, as media and your program, which is an awesome program in terms of promoting this information, it helps those who see this program to get a better understanding.
That's right.
Who have neurodiverse kids or children, and also get ideas of, hey, if I don't know, where can I get the information?
That's right.
Where can I go to get more information to be able to be better equipped to take care of my child? Because one of the things is, I've always said to people, while you want to cushion it for them, you have to remember they will live in the world. While you have the challenge of a neurodiverse child with different challenges, wherever you're on the spectrum, you still have the other things. You still have feelings. You still have your goal. You still have your dreams. You still want to get married. You still want to do everything as somebody who might be able-bodied and is in a more neurotypical individual. But they have all of these things, and you need to prepare them. So the idea is not to cushion everything for them, but you're preparing them that if you're not here, especially parents.
Yes.
Sometimes our parents have the misconception that they might outlive the child, and that may not happen. The child might outlive the parents. What happens if you're no longer there?
Yes.
How are they going to do?
You want them to be independent.
You want them to be independent.
Function.
When I was at Lighthouse, one thing I like with their program is that, especially the high school students, is that they give them a training piece where they would have gone to like a group home. So the older ones were able to be there, and they, kind of live with another individual, so they could function. They get a few times. It's a training process though, and they would be able to do every little thing for themselves, prepare for themselves, and how it would feel if they were on their own. They also had another piece where they weren't on work experience, because they want to work too. They want money, and and they want to live a normal life. And so they got that experience, and so we have to prepare them that they will be able to survive even if you're not here. While you're here, fine, but and I think maybe that is one of the challenges. Sometimes we can become overprotective.
Yes.
And it's fair, because they have the challenges, but you have to prepare them for the future.
That's right.
Because you never know. You might outlive them, but they might outlive you, and so you have to prepare.
You have to prepare.
Yeah.
That's right. So we are listening to Faith Beyond the Labels with Liz, where we are uncovering stigma, faith, and we're talking about belonging. And we're speaking with Damion Ferron. He's also a reverend and a veteran educator. Don't go anywhere. Stay right there. We'll be back shortly after this break.
This is Flash Talk, the
uncut edition. Say it just how you feel it.
No filters, no fluff, just real talk with the full Flashpoint fam. Get with it.
From hot takes to belly laughs, the crew is locked in and ready.
From debates that might get a little spicy, including all VIP members.
This is where vibes meets voice, jokes meets truth, and we talk things.
We are here to get real.
It's raw, it's real, and it's about time.
This is Flash Talks, the uncut edition. Flash Farm. What are the things then now? Real people, real voices, real conversations.
Flash Talk, the uncut edition, at 7 p.m. every Thursday, right here on Flashpoint.
Welcome back. You're listening to Faith Beyond the Labels with Liz. And today we're discussing breaking the stigma, faith, inclusion, and belonging in church and community. And I'm here with veteran educator and Reverend Damion Ferron. So let's continue our conversation. You've worked in Canada and now you're here in the Cayman Islands. Have you noticed differences in how inclusion is approached in schools or communities?
I have seen a few changes in terms of, but I think most countries are going in that direction in terms where they are including kids with neurodiversity in almost a regular school. While in Canada, that's what is happening in terms of they go to the regular school like everybody else, and then you have different or different persons to help in the situation. The same thing is happening in Cayman since I've been back, where I'm seeing where they're including them in the regular school. While I agree that this is really a good approach, but I am also hesitant in one sense about it, because as we talk about it, there are different stages, different they are placed at different eras in terms of on the spectrum of where they are. And while some are able to function, manage a regular institution, some aren't. And sometimes if you're not careful, they can be left behind. One experience is one that I had in Canada. Young man, well-mannered. I mean, that I could see that he's coming from a good home, but he needs a little bit more. If the class itself is not welcoming, which is sometimes challenging, because it's not, and I think that one of the aim is that if you put them with other students, they will get there. But again, sometimes not all the students are getting there, where they know that this child has that challenge and I have to give him a little more understanding compared to the others. After a while, they get frustrated too, and sometimes the child who has that challenge get frustrated also. So instead of working together, it becomes a challenge, and sometimes instead of learning, they don't progress well. So I believe you have to do that evaluation, look at the data well, and to see that if this child is one of those who will function well. I do believe that you still should create an institution that would cater for some students who are on the spectrum, that they will function better in an environment like that. Because one of the things, especially the needs sometimes, is a smaller space and a smaller classroom than with a class of 20 or 15. It might need to be less, like 5. So I think you need both. Know when to include them or in the regular school system, but also know when to pull some of them or have that set that you assess that would do better in a more structured way. and give them a proper direction in terms of where you wanted them to go and what the skills that they want to. And again, we have to remember that it depends on where they are too. We have to be mindful that the academic piece is not going to be the greater portion. It will be there because you want that piece, but you also want to develop the skills, the survival skills that will be able to function and manage and take care of themselves.
Okay.
Because we're living in a world now where, as academic is good, but if you have the skill, you can also still make a life and become what you want to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I know some areas they like the US, it's based on the least. You place a child where there's the least restrictive environment. So as you rightfully mentioned, you assess and you evaluate how the child is doing. Yeah, I agree with that.
Because what happens sometimes, if you're not careful, and as I said, it comes back down to knowing, is that if they're in an environment and it is not aware, remember, kids' educational background travel with them. And sometimes if you're not careful, you put information there that with more investigation, you'll realize it shouldn't have been there. And then the child has this file carrying with them with sometimes information that shouldn't be there because we didn't know all of the data, we didn't have all of the information. And again, I'm say bashing the institution, but sometimes it's a team effort. And that's the problem sometimes we have, the team effort. It takes in the education system, it takes the parents, it takes all the caregivers, it takes the government, it takes the people in the community to work together to create that environment for that individual. Because if one is saying this and the others is opposing, then you have the barrier. And that's what happens sometimes. As parents, sometimes parents, the educator maybe have seen something, not sure, speculating, but hey, would you give the child, just test to see if everything is all right? Will you do a little more investigation? But sometimes the parents are reluctant because as it come back down to fear, it come back down to ignorance, it come back down not wanting to really, know that this is a possibility and I have to deal with it. But as I said, knowledge is power.
Yes.
If you know you can change, you can help the situation. You can better plan for the individual. You can better guide their future, which is that's what we want to achieve at the end of the day.
That's right.
That your job is all of us, all of those persons, government, parents, community persons, educators, is that our goal is to prepare that individual that they will become the best that they can be as an individual.
That's right. Thank you for that. So we see where it takes a collaborative effort and sometimes multi-tiered system where we have different specialists collaborating together.
As I was saying to you, as I said, another just experience. That child, as I said, who had a neurodiverse situation, wasn't able to function in the regular school.
Yes.
When I think he would normally come and he will take off his clothes but he was in a regular school system. But if he was in a more structured environment, that would help him more than being in a regular system where he is not able to function or help properly. Because sometimes the resources are not there.
Yes.
That's a reality. The resources is not there to give him that one-on-one attention.
That's so true. So you find some areas, in some places, they have the scale and the resources.
Yeah.
And then a smaller jurisdiction might still be building a specialist capacity, as you've mentioned, some of them. Building that awareness and consistency now in implementation is another thing. So the difference I'm getting from you is not so much that one place cares and another does not.
No, I agree, yes. I think everybody is opening their eyes and seeing it now and trying everything to create that holistic environment that where everybody is important and everybody is included.
That's right.
And that's the way we need to go.
Yes.
But as I said, you have those challenges. For me, as I said, I still believe that you have to have both. Those who can function in a regular school, but there's again the need for an institution where it would cater
right, for more specialized
services. And
right.
also by doing that, they will get more special services from individuals who are in training in that area, so they can help the individual to become what they want, become who they want to become.
Lovely, lovely. So neurodiverse children do not need to be compared into belonging. They just need to be understood into belonging. And these are such important insights that you're sharing with us. So as we talk about misunderstanding and stigma, I'm reminded of something many families experience. Sometimes children learn very early that certain parts of themselves make others uncomfortable. So they start observing and they start adjusting and they start masking. And in my own journey as a parent, I saw how social pressures, misunderstanding, and even bullying, because as you were mentioning that example where the child would have been better off in maybe a smaller environment, and sometimes inclusion is good because you want everybody to have an understanding of each other, but sometimes the children don't, especially if they're not exposed to individuals who are different, they will not know how to navigate this or how to interact. And then they end up bullying the others or their peers who seem to be different. And the social pressure is on, and then the individual who may be neurodiverse might decide to hide themselves, try to fit in, and it can lead to anxiety and stress, because I'm speaking from lived experience, because one of my daughters went through high school masking. You know, as a parent, I would have realized that, yes, she seemed like she might be on the spectrum. I remember sharing with someone and the person said, oh, nothing is wrong with the child because of the whole perception about it. And you're saying something is off because, you know, she's not finishing her work, or why is she having issues with her peers, why is she complaining that they're not being kind to her. And it wasn't until she left high school and she decided to book herself into Alex Panton Place, because I guess whatever she was going through, she felt she needed help, which is a good thing, because I wouldn't have known. And then, of course, that started a series of assessments and counseling, and now she has a diagnosis of both autism and ADHD. And so now we understand why the peers would have seen that she's not maybe like them, because they say they're normal, right? And so they would be bullying her, and you're wondering what's the issue, because maybe they don't have the language or the patience to accommodate someone who doesn't necessarily behave like them. So I saw what this did to her, this whole misunderstanding and the kind of emotional labor which can become incredibly heavy. So what do you think are some of these long-term emotional effects and consequences? Because you would have come across some of these things in your practice.
I would agree with you, the masking. Most times you find people mask, and it's part of our nature. If you know you have a challenge or something and people are not kind to you, it is easier to put on the mask than to expose it. And you have individuals some persons who just are confident in themselves and will go ahead. But you have those, as you said, who mask it. And we don't want to seem different, because everybody don't appreciate you when you are different. And so you're right about it. But as you say, the masking create a lot of other problems. And you mentioned some of the emotional anxiety. And unfortunately, sometimes it can even lead to a person committing suicide.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So the thing is, if you're not working on trying to get that treatment in terms of getting better or working on it, it was going to lead to the others, the anxiety, the emotional problem, and eventually stress is one of them. And if you don't have that community that you can share with, make it even worse.
Yes,
if you are an
indeed.
individual who is keeping everything in it, you don't share, you're going to allow the thoughts that are wrong to float in your mind. And sometimes, as I said, the unfortunate one is that you want to harm yourself. And so that's why you find some kids who face this, they will slit their wrists, their wrists, just to give them that relief. Because when they slit their wrists, it's not a good, they are self-harming themselves, but in their mind, it helps them to cope. You have some persons who pull out a straw out of their hair. You find, so some persons do different things to try to cope. And sometimes you find some people end up into different drugs and to just try to get a relief or go into the wrong company because they want to be like everyone else. We need to get there because it comes back down to having that community or persons that you can share it.
Yes.
That safe space that they can come and let you know what is happening. But again, you have to understand with children, you have those different stages, teenager stage, and you try to fit in and you want to be with the crowd. But again, as I said, it's always come back down to that team effort where the environment they are in, there must be someone that they can talk to.
Right.
And sometimes it's not there, and that is creating the problem. Because as I said, mommy don't want to hear, or daddy don't want to hear, and then depends on the teacher or the guidance counselor. And then we fail to understand sometimes when we see people, they are making the assessment of how you would treat them. Because if they see you, sometimes they give you a little hints to get an idea, to gauge where you are. So they might share a little bit of it just to see where and see how you react to it. And then they put on the mask because they know that if I go a little further with you, they are going to be embarrassed. And there's none of us who want to be there where you're embarrassed or a matter of fact, you don't want anybody to treat your feelings with any scant regard or don't want to appreciate what you're saying.
That's so true.
I've always said to my children that your feelings and is important. Whatever I think is still important because you are feeling it, you're going through it. And so we need to get to the place where we just appreciate people's feeling. And that's why it comes down to listening. We sometimes guilty, we quick to find the remedy sometimes instead of listening. And so when we listen more, we can begin to identify these problems. We are able to see these problems and we are able to help individuals who are facing this problem. Unfortunately, sometimes is when something's really bad or something really bad happened, we are trying to get behind it to see if we can fix it. But as you said rightly, we need to be more vigilant in terms of observing our children.
Yes, that's true.
Making the parents more aware. One thing I love I did when I was in Jamaica is that we used to have seminars for parents, just them to get them more knowledge about all this, what is happening, and to get to develop a relationship with their children.
Yes.
So they can begin to see these incidents and what is happening. But also when they recognize it, don't dismiss it. Because sometimes they dismiss it, it's bad behavior or you just want attention. No. Investigate a little bit more.
Yes.
And look into the matter. And then also know your limitations. When you realize that you don't have the capacity, the ability to help the child, seek help.
It's right.
It's there. There's free online services that you can get just to call and get somebody advice. Hey, my child is behaving this way, and I'm not sure, but there might be some masking of certain things, and I'm not sure. How can I approach it? How can I develop that relationship to get a little bit more,
And that's
to
a very
understand what's
profound point, very profound point. And even in scriptures, Jesus said, ask and it shall be given.
Yes.
Seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened.
Yes. And as I said, and it tells about, if you, as you said with Jesus, you need to have that quiet time. And know when. But also you have to also notice with Jesus, by faith, that he knows when to say, it's time, I'm stepping away. And when you look at his life, he trained 12 men.
Yes.
And know that, hey, when the time came, he gave them the opportunity to experiment. He allowed them to use the skills, use the ability. It's the same thing we need to do sometimes. We have the skills, we have the abilities, we have the professions, we have those who can help.
Yes.
Get them involved.
That's right.
Don't dismiss it. No, I don't know everything. No individual know everything. And if we begin to target them and use them, it helps. I know sometimes it's the financial part. Sometimes discourage some persons, and that, I know it's challenging.
Yeah.
But, still seek help. So there are still other agencies that can help. And then when you can get another area where you have to pay, then you do that. But there is help, and we need to begin to reach out to these sources.
Right. That is so true. Thank you so much for that. And, as I'd mentioned, the masking, the research shows that girls tend to mask more. They're particularly skilled at doing this. Maybe it's because of how they're culturally socialized to think about their appearance, I'm not sure. But many do feel pressured to mask because they quickly learn that being their authentic self can bring correction or ridicule or punishment or even exclusion. And then they may internalize the message that being accepted requires constant performance. And churches too, I think, can unintentionally contribute to this when they reward only those who are quiet. Still, good behavior. So, what do you think about that?
I agree with you. As I said, it comes down to culture too. I was saying, always seeing the child who is well behaved and put together. There's no individual who all do bad, and so we must understand that every individual has their strength and their weaknesses.
Yes.
And we need to look into it. I know. As I said, my knowledge now compared to when I was a child would be different. I mean, when growing up with my own parents, is that we hardly hear the positive sometimes. Yes, because they might give you a smile or they might, give you a hug, but just saying verbally, oh, you did well today, or, you did a good job.
Yes.
Sometimes they don't do that.
Especially in our Caribbean context.
In the Caribbean context,
yes. We tend to practice. When we call it tough love.
Tough love, yes. And so we miss it. When I became a parent myself, intentionally, and sometimes, let me just guilty of it. I have my eldest daughter. Since I cut my hair now, she have a tendency of loving to touch my bald head, and I keep telling her, do not touch me. But sometimes I look back and I realize it's from the Caribbean background, our history. But one other thing is why I said not only that it's from the Caribbean background, but in terms of my father, we didn't do much hugging.
Yes.
And so you realize that, she'd do it, and it kind of feel funny because you didn't, but I am intentional.
Yes.
The other day I was saying to myself, stop it. Because in a few years, she's off to college. And these are the memories you have.
Yes.
So I hug my girls, and I'm changing my mindset. You learn each day. So when she do it now, I'm laughing after it. Or if she play around, I laugh. Because when I was growing up, I wouldn't do that with my father. My father would not do that. And I realized that human beings need both affirmation. You need to give them from the spoken word, and you
Yes.
also need to do it physically. Same thing even if you're a neurodiverse child. They need both. They need that piece that they are belonging and that you're there for them, because it helps to change their perspective and
Yes.
also drive them to move away from the mass. Because you can imagine if you have that challenge and you're
Yes.
not, you don't feel love in terms of a positive comment or a hug, it makes such a difference. And so they will mask it when you're not getting it. And so they try to seek it in other spaces.
Yes.
And that's the problem sometimes, because you might be in an environment or you might be in a home that is not open to it, not doing it, and they are seeking it in other spaces. And so to get it in other spaces, I need to be, quote unquote,
Yes.
like everybody else to achieve that. And so we need to help them not to do that, not to unmask, but to begin. We need them to unmask, really. That's what I should
Yes,
say,
yes.
unmask, so that they can now be themselves. And we now need to be open that we can appreciate who they are.
Wow,
Yeah.
very strong point there. Thank you so much. You're listening to Faith Beyond the Labels with Liz. When we return, we'll talk about what true inclusion looks like in the church and not just accommodations, and touch a little bit on the school to create real belonging. So stay with us.
When the world quiets down and the noise of the day fades away, that's when the real conversations begin. The ones we hide, the ones we fear, the ones that need to be heard. Conversations After Dark with Mario, where the silence ends and truth begins. Every Wednesday night at 10 p.m., Mario takes you on a journey through the real, raw, and rarely spoken truths that shape our lives. From personal battles to family struggles, community wounds to silent traumas. No topic is too taboo, no story too deep. It's not just talk, it's healing. This is a space where shame is shattered, silence is broken, and truth finally speaks. Conversations After Dark with Mario, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Only on Flashpoint Radio, www.flashpointmedia.ky. Stay up, speak up, heal.
This is Faith Beyond the Labels with Liz, where stories shine, faith ignites, and every soul finds its flame. And we're here with Mr. Damion Ferron, a veteran educator and a counselor and a devout Christian. And he's helping us to unpack breaking the stigma, faith, inclusion, and belonging in church and the community. So, Mr. Ferron, we have been having such an enlightening discussion so far. So I want to ask you, when parents encounter challenges trying to access education, because this is a real issue for parents of neurodiverse kids, some schools hesitate to accept them. Why do you think schools hesitate to accept these, children who have these various challenges?
As I said, that should not be, but I think one of the reasons why, and I still stand on it, is that when parents are aware of the challenge in terms of their child or individual or children who have that neurodiverse challenge, they share the information with the kids. And unfortunately, the kids begin to see it as an ammunition to abuse the system.
That's for some children,
For some
right?
children. Because you have some parents, when they share to the kids, and not only the kids, and I should not only say the kids, but the parents themselves, because they have this new information, begin to use it also in a context where every behavior, every action is now associated with the challenge that the child has.
So the label assigned now becomes like a crutch.
A crutch. Agree with you. That's maybe the best word. Because you find that because they know this, if the child behave a certain way, oh, he has ADHD, or he has ODD, which is opposition defiance disorder. So you begin to use it, and then the children get that notion that, oh, I'm not going to be able to learn well because I have ADHD. I have, as I say, ODD, or any other dyslexia, all of the others that are out there. They begin to use it, oh, I can't learn anymore. Now I don't have the ability, and oh, my behavior is because of this. And so it becomes a barrier in terms of when they go into the education system. So when they go into the educational system, and instead of having the mindset that, hey, I'm going in there, yes, I have these challenges, but I'm not going to allow these challenges to define me.
Yes.
I am going there still, and I'm going to work to my best ability. And yes, it might take me an extra hour, it might take me an extra 2 hours, it might take me an extra 3 hours, but I'm still going to do my best. I'm not going to use it as a crutch to not do anything. And so you find, not all, as I said, it's not in every case, but you find sometimes the kids develop certain behavior which are not, behaviors that are not appropriate in terms of their learning and then the school environment. And so you find that school has to do what we call a vetting piece, where you have to vet them. You have to vet and get the data that they know before. How is this child operate in a different environment before? How did they operate in a preschool before? How did they behave if they went to another school? Because that data will kind of give you, or gauge you in terms of knowing, hey, what you're going to face with.
So you're saying now the school will be thinking about if they can have the appropriate resources to help this child?
Yes.
Or if they have the professionals within, or the capacity. So some schools may be thinking about that.
Yes, because if you don't have it, as you said, the resources, the personnel to do the job, you're going to have more challenges. And sometimes, while the intention is good to incorporate them into that educational setting, it will also, it will maybe impact those who are in the classroom, or it depends on the size of the classroom, but it also might impact that individual child that is there. And the reality is, we don't want a child to just go through the system.
Yes.
I think that, for me, that would be, it doesn't make sense if you have a child just go through the system. You can get the basic and be able to function wherever you go. So that is, if we move our mindset where we begin to understand that, yes, I have this challenge, but you can function still.
Yes.
You can manage still. I'm not going to expect you to do the whole thing, but you can do half. You can still do a quarter. And you don't use it as an excuse. Oh, because mom know that I'm like this, or I have this disability, or this challenge, I'm going to get away with it. And that's one of the challenges why you find education put a barrier in terms of where they go.
So we need a mindset shift, and not just for the parents, too. Even for some school leaders.
Yes.
They need to be aware of the conditions, be aware of not comparing it, because that can cause stereotyping. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the professionals, the collaboration, which is important. The parent has to be center of that, because you know your child best.
Best, yes. And as I say, in terms of even developing our schools, some of them are here a long time, but you just have to add to it. I've always believed you have a house, you build on it. Yeah, as long as you have the foundation, you can add to it and do more to it. If it was a one room, you can change it to a 2-bedroom,
yes,
or you can change it to upstairs. So the same thing with the school. So the vision should be, as we go even in the future,
yes,
is that also we are developing the school setting.
Yes.
That we have departments and sections, that if we have these neurodiverse kids, that we are putting the resources, we are putting the personnel, we are putting all that is necessary, that if they come into the system, they can function and they will manage as best as possible.
Lovely.
Yes.
So you touch on something. What role does professional training, you think, play in preventing some of these harmful assumptions that people make?
It plays a very important part. Not knowing make it harder.
Yes.
And so the more you can learn about neurodiverse problems or challenges, as I say, try to get rid of the different stigmas that are associated with it, it's better for you. Again, it also equip you, whether you're a parent, a community leader, or in education, or even if you're a member of parliament. It helps you to plan with a vision for the future, because we're going to have individuals like this that are here, and so we need to begin to have plans that are incorporating these individuals, and it should be right across the board. So we need to get to the place. Does it mean first you didn't have ramps for persons who had wheelchairs in many times, but now that is being done. And the same thing, we don't want to be lagging behind for the future. We need to speed up the process.
Yes.
We need to begin to be more vigilant in the process.
Yes.
In terms of getting our environment and our different spaces in that mindset that, hey, they're here, they're a part of us, they're a part of the community, and we want them to be incorporated. We don't want them to feel left out, but we are one, and we depend on each other to become that, and to be a better society, a better community, a better country.
Yeah, lovely.
And you know, and each person can make a difference.
Yes. And I know some steps have been taken even here on Ireland, because there's a Sunflower Initiative where people wearing it, they have a hidden disability. And I think some workplaces have taken the step to train their workers to say, hey, if you see someone coming wearing the lanyard with a sunflower, the question you should ask is, how can I help?
Yes.
So
I like that, and you're right. And that's one I think I learned later down, that you don't need to jump in unless you need to ask.
Yes.
Now, because you see me, that means I need your help. You need to ask, and that's a powerful statement, that we need to reach there. And in the conversation that we are having for the future, we need to begin to encourage neurodiverse kids.
Yes.
How can we best help you? How can we best take you through to the future, and also to help you to be even greater in your society?
All right, lovely. So you have really been sharing some wonderful insights with us. And as we're winding down, I just wanted to ask you, final thoughts on what true inclusion looks like in the church setting and beyond.
As I said, true inclusion means that we begin to do it as how Jesus did.
Yes.
Jesus died for all of us.
Yes.
There is no exception. He didn't ask you if you have two hands or one hand. He didn't ask you if you have no hands at all or you have hands. So Jesus' model is the best one that we should follow in terms of inclusion. When he came for everybody, and every situation, every challenge that he faced while he was here, he chose love. Love was one of the elements, and we need to get to that place that we include everybody by following Jesus and love. Love, as it says, it's go beyond just saying it. Because sometimes we just say it and think that it goes beyond that. It requires that even when I'm not perfect, you love me still.
Yes.
And even when I have my weakness, you're not going to just dismiss me. You're going to love me still. And we need to get to that place that we love each other.
Yes.
That we want to help each other. Because at the end of the day, we are one. And as I said, we all go back to the same place at the end of the day. We live and we die. And nobody carries back anything with them. You go, as the Bible would say, naked you came and naked you shall return.
Thank you so much.
So, as I said, we need to follow Jesus' plan.
Yes.
Love all of each other as he loved all of us.
Yes.
Be willing to practice love despite the person's personality or challenges, And the love will also help you to have the patience.
Yes.
Help you to have the understanding. Help you to have that willing to want to find out what you don't know.
Absolutely.
Because that's the thing too. You must be willing to find out what you want, you don't know to know. It's just like, I would maybe use the best example. It's like our cell phone. I would say when I was a young man, it's only a few person have cell phone, but look at it now. Everybody have a cell phone, and cell phone is keep changing. Even grandma have cell phone, and grandma is learning how to use a cell phone. The same thing as us as individual. If we are going to have a better society, if we're going to have a better world, we must come to the place that everybody matters. Every individual is important.
All lives matter.
And so we need to be there for each other. However, I've always cautioned that we must remember, with rights there's responsibility.
With rights there's responsibility.
And sometimes we have children who have neurodiverse challenges, and sometimes we are giving them all the right and not the responsibility. They must understand there's a balance. That, hey, yes, you may have this challenge. That doesn't mean that you're going to be excused from everything. You must develop that up. You must set those foundations that they will understand that they will be good individuals. They will be individuals who are making a difference, and that they will be someone that is going to touch either one life or more than one life, and understand that they are here for a purpose. They are a gift from God. And a matter of fact, all of us are a gift from God, and that we are here to do something that God has already ordained for us. And we just need to excel there and help each other to achieve the goal.
Thank you so much. That's so profound. I really enjoyed this discussion with you, and I'm sure it resonates with many of our listeners out there. So at its core, removing stigma around neurodiversity is not just a social issue, it's actually a spiritual one. Yes. When we stigmatize autism, ADHD, Down syndrome, dyslexia, or any neurological difference, we are often responding from misunderstanding rather than the truth. But faith invites us to see people through God's lens rather than the society's labels. And Scripture reminds us that every person is created intentionally and with dignity. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, the psalmist said in Psalms 139, verse 14. So with that, we've come to the end of our show. Thank you so much for staying with us. And I close with prayer as usual. Lord, help us to move from ignorance to understanding, Father, from silence to courage. We thank you, O Father, that you are the creator of all things. And we praise you because we know that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. Teach our churches how to welcome. Teach our schools how to understand. Teach our communities how to love well. Help us to see every child the way you see them, fearfully, wonderfully, and intentionally made in Jesus' name. Amen. You've been listening to Faith Beyond the Labels with Liz. And if today's conversation encouraged you, please share it with someone who might need it. Together, we can build communities where every child is seen, supported, and celebrated. Until next time, labels may describe differences, but they should never limit destiny. God bless you.